I became obsessed with prepping, and I mean properly obsessed. Not in the casual way where you buy a torch, a few tins, maybe a power bank, and tell yourself you're now prepared. I mean the kind of obsession where your brain starts looking at everything through one question. What happens if this stops working? What happens if the power goes? What happens if food prices spike? What happens if shelves go patchy? What happens if fuel becomes harder to get? What happens if the system everyone trusts is a lot more fragile than it looks? And at first, I honestly thought that obsession was a good thing because it woke me up, it made me pay attention, it made me less naive. It's made me realize how much of normal life depends on systems most people never even think about until they wobble. But over time, I've learned something important. There is a difference between being prepared and being consumed by the idea of preparing. And if you cross that line, prepping stops making you stronger and starts making you anxious, distracted, and weirdly disconnected from normal life. So in this video, I want to talk honestly about that. What happened when I got too deep into it, what I got wrong, what actually mattered, and what I learned that I think will genuinely help anyone who is either getting into prepping now or quietly sliding into the same trap. Welcome back to Charlie Survival. If you haven't already, subscribe and leave a comment below telling me this. Have you ever felt yourself getting a bit too deep into prepping, gear, or worst case thinking? Because I think a lot more people feel that than they admit. Now, I want to start with the first lesson I learned. Lesson 1. Prepping can become a form of fear management, not resilience. This one took me a while to admit because on the surface, prepping looks rational, and it often is. Having food in the house is rational, having water, lighting, power backups, and some breathing room is rational. Having a plan is rational. But there comes a point where you're not really building resilience anymore, you're just trying to calm your nerves. You're buying things to feel safe, not because the thing actually matters that much. And that is a big distinction because real preparedness should make life feel steadier, it should make you calmer, it should reduce noise. If your version of prepping is making you constantly check the news, constantly imagine scenarios, and constantly feel like something bad is about to happen, then something has gone wrong. That was one of the first hard truths I had to face because I realized some of what I was calling preparedness was actually just organized anxiety, useful in parts, yes, but not always healthy. Lesson 2. Gear is seductive because it feels like progress. This is a huge one. Buying something gives you a hit. It feels productive, it feels measurable. You can point at it and say, right, I've done something. And sometimes you have. Sometimes gear is exactly what you need. But I learned that gear can become a very convincing distraction from the things that matter more. Because a lot of real preparedness is boring. Fitness is boring compared to gear. Organization is boring compared to gear. Sorting your finances out is boring compared to gear. Learning how to store food properly is boring compared to gear. Actually testing the kit you already own is boring compared to buying new kit, but the boring stuff is often where the real strength is. Anyone can stack gadgets. Far fewer people build a life that is generally harder to knock over. That was a major shift for me because I realized I could spend hours looking at the next clever product and still ignore the basics that would matter more in a real disruption. So if you're deep in the gear rabbit hole, I get it, I really do, but one of the best things I learned was this. The right gear supports your plan, it does not replace your plan. Lesson 3. Quantity is not the same as readiness. This one was massive for me too because when you first get into prepping, it is very easy to think in terms of accumulation, more food, more water, more tools, more backups, more bags, more storage, more just in case. And again, some of that is useful, but after a while you can realize that more stuff actually makes you less prepared if it creates clutter, confusion, debt, or false confidence. There is a big difference between owning equipment and being able to use it well. A big difference between having food and having a system. A big difference between having a pile of kit and having clarity. And I think that is where a lot of people quietly go wrong. They build a pile, not a system. A pile looks impressive. A system actually works. A pile makes you feel prepared. A system tells you what you have, where it is, how long it lasts, what problem it solves, and what still needs fixing. That shift changed how I looked at everything. Instead of asking, what else can I buy? I started asking, what problems does this actually solve? And that one question saves me a lot of wasted money. It also made me much more honest with myself because sometimes the answer was not much really, just wanted it, and that's fine sometimes. Not everything has to be brutally practical, but do not confuse desire with necessity. Lesson 4. The strongest prep is often not physical, it is mental. This might be the biggest lesson of the lot because when I got too obsessed, I noticed something strange. I had more gear, more knowledge, more awareness, but I was not always more peaceful. And that told me something important. Preparedness is not just about what you have in your cupboard. It is about what is happening in your head. If your mind is chaotic, no amount of storage will fully calm you down. If you're constantly doom scrolling, constantly reacting to every headline, constantly imagining the next crisis, then you're not becoming more resilient. You're just becoming more sensitized. That is why I now think one of the most underrated survival skills is the ability to stay steady, to think clearly, to not get pulled around by every wave of fear, to be informed without being consumed, to prepare without turning collapse into your whole personality. That took me time to learn because there is a strange ego trap in prepping too. It can make you feel like one of the few who sees what is really going on, and one of the few paying attention, one of the few who is awake while everyone else drifts. And sometimes there is truth in that, but it can also make you self-serious. It can make you lose perspective. It can make you forget that preparedness is meant to support life, not replace it. Around this point, I also started simplifying what I actually recommend. I've spent years testing kits and I put my recommendations in one place on my Charlie Survival Amazon kit list. You can find that in the description, and if you want the easiest free place to start, my free blackout checklist is linked in the pinned comment. That is probably the best first place for most people because it is simple, practical and not overwhelming. And if you want the deeper UK specific step-by-step version, that is what my course, the UK Crisis Readiness System, is for. There is now over 60 active members inside, and I've had a lot of positive feedback from people saying it's helping them feel calmer, clearer and much more structured in how they prepare. Because that is really the goal, not more noise, more clarity. Lesson 5, skills beat stuff over and over again. This sounds obvious, but I do not think most people really live it. A person with average kit and strong skills is in a better position than a person with amazing kit and no practice. Can you cook from simple ingredients? Can you manage without convenience for a while? Can you stay warm, stay clean and stay organized? Can you solve problems without instantly needing a product? Can you adapt? Can you improvise? Can you stay useful when life gets uncomfortable? That is real preparedness, and that is partly why I've become more interested in simpler, older, more grounded skills over time. Food storage, cooking, repair, outdoor competence, water, fire, fitness, navigation, mental steadiness. Those things travel with you. Those things do not break because the battery died. Those things do not become obsolete because a better version came out next month. And those things build a deeper kind of confidence, not the fragile confidence that comes from owning nice equipment, real confidence. The kind that says even if life gets awkward, I will probably find a way through it. Lesson 6. Finances are prep, whether people like it or not. This one is less exciting but very real. If you are in debt, overstretched, living month to month, or one bit away from stress, that is a preparedness problem. Not because you have failed, just because financial fragility is fragility. Money is not everything, but margin matters. A financial margin is one of the strongest forms of preparedness there is, because most disruption in Britain does not start with some dramatic collapse. It starts with rising costs, higher food bills, higher fuel bills, unexpected repairs, lost work, sudden pressure. If you have no room in your finances, everything becomes a crisis much faster. This is why I now see financial discipline as part of preparedness, not separate from it. Same with health, same with relationships, same with where you live. Same with how dependent your life is on systems you do not control. It all connects. Lesson 7. The goal is not prepare for the end of life. The goal is to protect a good life. This was one of the biggest shifts of all for me. At one point, prepping had become very focused on what could go wrong. But over time, I realized the real point is what you're trying to preserve. Peace, normality, dignity, choice, strength, time with people you care about. The ability to stay human under pressure. That is the point. If your version of prepping makes you miserable, isolated, suspicious of everyone, and unable to enjoy ordinary life, then even if you are technically prepared, something is off, because the whole point is being more free, not less, more grounded, not more frantic, more capable, not more paranoid. And honestly, I think that is the message I want this channel to stand for more and more. Yes, pay attention. Yes, be realistic. Yes, get your house in order. But do not worship crisis, do not build your whole identity around collapse. Do not become so obsessed with surviving that you forget to live properly now. Because the strongest people I know are not the loudest or most dramatic. They're usually the calmest, the clearest, the most practical, the hardest to shake. So if I could sum up what I've learned from become obsessed with prepping, it would be this. Preparedness is good, obsession is not. Systems are better than piles. Skills are better than stuff. Calm is better than panic. Clarity is better than noise. And the best prep of all is a life with enough margin, strength and steadiness that when pressure comes you do not instantly fall apart. That is what I'm aiming for now. Not perfect preparedness, just a stronger, calmer, more capable life. So if this video resonated, hit like, subscribe and leave a comment below telling me what lesson hit you most. And if you want the easiest practical next step, grab my free blackout checklist in the pinned comment. That is where I would start. If you want the deeper step-by-step version, the full UK specific system for building real readiness without all the chaos and guesswork, then have a look at my course, the UK Crisis Readiness System. For serious people, the value is not just information, it is structure, it is confidence, it is knowing what to do first. And if you just want useful gear recommendations without going down every rabbit hole yourself, my Charlie Survival Amazon kit list is in the description. I appreciate you watching, and if you enjoyed this one, you'll enjoy this one next on screen, all about the oil crisis that is about to hit the UK. Click it and I'll see you over there.